All right, welcome back. Peace, everybody coming in the room. Ooh, sun is shining. Sun is shining bright today. Another beautiful day. We just got back from the market. Took you guys to the market. Showed you guys all the food that's there and all the produce, and fruits and stuff. Everything is growing out here, and it's cultivated and it gets brought to this marketplace where people, be buying food and stuff. So it's really dope. I think there's a lot of steps. Like a lot of people would say that maybe that's not, you should be growing your own food, and absolutely, I believe that. I think that the more conscious you become, you start moving in a certain direction. And at first it's like just eating some vegan food seems like something astounding, but the more you kind of get deeper and deeper into the knowledge and into understanding, you start discovering that there's many layers to reality that, you think it's just about being vegan, but then you find out that there's more to it, And so, and I've already tested a lot of the limitations of my body. I've done a lot of things to try to gain an understanding on what this machine is, on what it's capable of doing, and the lengths that it's capable of withstanding, And that for me has been something that I have enjoyed diving into, because I like to live and feel my knowledge. I like to live it. Like, people want to say that, people are breatherian, but they never truly even embrace the idea. I've done it just for myself. Like, I don't tell people to do what I do, but I've done it just to prove to myself, what is the human body capable of. And along my journey, I discovered that we have been so far removed from our natural self that we don't truly understand what we are. We don't truly understand our body. We don't truly understand what our natural diet, what our natural environment is. We don't know what this machine is. We just put stuff into it because we've been programmed to do it. We eat when we're not hungry. I look at the amount of food that we consume on a daily basis, and I just think to myself, wow, this is like, if we were in nature, we would never consume this much. It would take more effort to gather the amount of calories that we consume daily now. Because think about, people are eating 3 meals a day. They're eating 3 meals a day of high calorie foods that are artificial and never existed in nature. This, day after day, inevitably causes disease. It's crazy to think that it wouldn't. Of course it's an imbalance. You're eating 3 times a day artificial GMO food that's not even designed for the human body, but then you question why we have cancer. You question why we have diabetes. People start whole corporations and coalitions and these foundations to talk about cancer and finding a cure for cancer, but they never even look into what is causing the cancer. Why do we even have cancer? Why do we have diabetes? Because we're so out of line with who we are. I mean, look at how we eat, look at how we think, look at how we live day-to-day lives, You can tell we're disconnected. Food has become a comfort to not look at ourselves. We're scared to go without food. That is what I think that's one of the biggest fears of the human, is to not eat. Just the mere thought, an idea, mentioning it scares people. They're like, fuck that shit. Like, I gotta have my food. I gotta eat. Fuck, you ain't taking away my food. I gotta eat. That's how people think, because that's the reaction that they get, because the sheer idea of going without food is, to some people, is they don't want to do that. Because I realize that food oftentimes becomes a suppression for diving into our true selves, for looking at ourselves, for diving into emotions, for expressing things that we're trying to cover up with food. Food has become a cover-up, really. When you really look into it, why else would somebody think, the first thing that they think when they wake up is, oh, I gotta eat breakfast, I gotta go get some, I gotta put something in my body, even though their body is not even in need or close to being in need of nutrients, of food, of calories. We're more than straight. Most people right now have enough reserves, what they call fat, on their body to go 40 days without eating. It's plain and simple. Most people have at least enough reserves to go 40 days without eating. But they think, their mind, the way it's programmed, they think that if they go one day with skipping a meal, that they think that they're not gonna survive. They start feeling weak. And I understand it, because the way the human body is set up, it gets used to a certain level of calories. If you give yourself 3 meals a day and you try to cut back to 2 or 1 meal a day, you're gonna feel it. Your body's gonna be asking you for more, because it's gonna be like, what the hell? Like, you've been feeding me 3 meals a day for 15 years and all of a sudden, shit, now you wanna eat 1? Like, it's gonna feel deficient, because it's become accustomed to this habit of eating 3 meals a day. It's been accustomed to a certain calorie intake, a certain amount of proteins, of carbohydrates and fats. And this is all just information, but it's different kinds of information. It's different. Look, food is consciousness. Everything in this reality is consciousness. You can't just assume that every food has the same consciousness, because just like human beings, we all have different consciousness. We all have different levels of vibrations that we vibrate on. So a pineapple has a different consciousness than a basil plant. Oregano has a different consciousness than a papaya. Why? Because everything is information. Everything is ACTs and Gs. Different plants carry different information, and when you intake different plants, they give you different information. This is what I was saying at the market. People want to dismiss the effect of an herb, but then if I gave you, like say they want us the placebo effect, right? That doesn't really work. But if I gave you 2 cups of coffee, you can't stop your body from having the reaction that coffee gives you, because coffee has an alkaloid in it called caffeine, which when ingested produces a certain biochemical response in your body. This is not subconscious. This is not something you have to think about. It's something that happens naturally without you thinking about it from ingesting this plant, because it has a certain compound. And this is why, people talk and say herbs don't work or whatever. And I absolutely don't think that herbs or food should be the be-all, end-all of your journey. But I do know that certain herbs hold qualities and compounds that are beneficial to certain parts of the human body just by its mere nature. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't dismiss this. If you, think about like the coca, what they make cocaine from. Now look up alkaloids. If you look at alkaloids are just different plant constituents that are primarily nitrogen based, and this is the main what they use for drugs. Most drugs are alkaloids. Like if you take the coca plant, which is by its very nature, it's a harmless plant. It's the indigenous people actually use it as an energy source to get energy, like they would coffee, to like maybe hike up a mountain or something. But of course, it's been adulterated. They extracted it using alcohol. They extracted the active alkaloid called cocaine, and they formulated it into a drug, right? But that drug, that plant constituent, has an effect on you, whether you're conscious of it or not. So we can't take away the biological function of things in this realm and say that they don't have an effect on the body. Absolutely not. I would never do that. But on the same token, we can't also put all the responsibility on the food, because the way we think has a lot to do with it as well, because the way we think dictates the way we feel and our vibration, and we could easily change that with a thought. But certain things happen over time that the body must be relieved of. Like, you got to think about all the artificial foods, all the artificial oils, all the food that's non-organic that we process throughout our body. That has an effect over time on our organs, on our intestinal system. The whole body is consists of bacteria. Look into this. Bacteria, you're mostly like you're one big giant walking bacteria. And I was looking into the structure of cells. If you look into a fungus cell and a human cell, they're practically the same as an animal cell. And actually, fungus has more in common with humans than a plant does. So it's more closely related to an animal than an actual plant. Fungus is, there's a theory that we're connected to fungus. Look up the Stone Ape theory. You know, Terence McKenna was talking about this, that our consciousness was actually expanded, that we came to this level of awareness by consuming mushrooms. That mushrooms were actually the gateway to open up and expand our minds. Now, if you look into the science of medical mushrooms or magic mushrooms, you can see that they do have biological implications. Like, consuming mushrooms actually creates neurogenesis, which means connection of new neural pathways that can rewire your brain to think differently, basically think differently. So you cannot take away the biological effects of a plant. You have to, if you're truly a truth seeker and you look at life objectively, you have to analyze and say that plants and things that we consume, as well as people, as well as our environment, as well as the way we think, all play a role on our biological health. This is a what they call, it's a holistic approach. You know, not just looking at one thing, but we're approaching this from a holistic perspective where we analyze our reality and we see where we can be conscious of what we interact with. We interact with food every day, but you can be on a happy vibrational thought all day and be eating shitty food. Now, it might not affect you at that moment, but over time, your cells are not in the most conducive predicament, you know, to be functioning. So I gotta look at everything, you know. I gotta think positively. I gotta eat the best food for my body. I gotta be around the best people in the best environment. You know, this is a holistic approach for me. So this is the way I look at life. I can't dismiss one thing because another thing works. Well, they both work. I'm gonna use both of them. I'm gonna use all three. I'm gonna use anything that I could find in my reality that'll better me to be in my best self, you know. So when you look at food, realize that shit. Why are you consuming food the way you consume it? And even when we eat healthy food, look at the way you eat. Are you conscious of the bites that you take? Are you, and this is something that I struggle with. I struggle with, when I eat, sometimes I eat too quickly. Like, before I know it, the food in front of me is gone because I just eat real quickly. Like, I have an addiction to the process of eating food. Not so much to the food, because I could just eat anything really that's vegan or that's in tune with my diet, but more so the process of ingesting food, the process of feeling satiated. That's something that I struggle with. So sometimes before I know it, you know, I'll be done with the food and I didn't even chew properly, and then that also affects digestion because you have enzymes in your mouth that are supposed to break down the food before it even gets to your stomach. It's a pre-digestive process that breaks down the food in your mouth before it even reaches your intestines. But if you're not chewing properly, then you're sending food into your stomach that's not pre-digested, leaving more work for the body to do, and then you create other problems like you start having gas or you start having digestive issues because you're not truly digesting food properly, you're not truly chewing food properly. So when you're chewing food, try to chew it as best as you can. Chew it until it's watery, because the truth is that humans are liquidarians, because even when we eat meat, we chew it until we can process it in a liquid form. The enzymes start breaking down the tissue, they start breaking it down into a liquid form. So really, when we digest food, we're digesting it as a liquid. We're not really eating whole foods. Like, you can't stuff a whole cucumber in your mouth without chewing it and just swallow it. You know, it would have a deleterious effects on your body. You gotta chew it the best you can in order for your body to get the best digestion. So that's why it's best to chew as much as possible, no matter what you're eating. Especially if you're eating meat, you want to chew that shit to best. I do not recommend eating meat, but if you are gonna eat food that's deleterious, meaning it has bad effects on your body, then at least do the due diligence to chew it as much as you can. So I know my weaknesses. I know that I had struggled with food. I know I have a tendency to overindulge, and that's why I think I gravitated towards a raw vegan diet, because I wanted to be able to overindulge without having as many negative effects, because it's kind of hard to eat fruits and vegetables in its raw form and overindulge or have negative effects on the body, because when we eat food, we're supposed to be eating food that has a lot of water content, that has a lot of fiber. So fruits and vegetables is the epitome of food with fiber and water content. Peace Reflection is coming in the room. Yeah, we're just talking about food. We're just talking about what humans eat, what humans supposed to eat, right? So I'm saying that food is supposed to have a lot of water, and this is one of the issues that I have with eating a lot of cooked food, that it dehydrates you. You could feel it. Like, ever eat some rice and beans with some tortillas, and if you don't drink any water after that meal, you're gonna feel very thirsty afterwards, because it takes a lot of water to process the food, because your body naturally, it knows it's supposed to have water content in the food. But if it doesn't come with the food that you're eating, it will take the water from your own body to help digest the food, because it takes water to process and digest food. So the more cooked food you eat, or the more dehydrated foods you eat, the more your body has to pull from yourself, and you were 70% body, 70% water, sorry. So it'll pull it from your body, you know? It'll start to pull it from your organs. It'll start to pull it from every part of your body to try to process and digest this food. That's why I recommend that you try to eat as much raw fruits and vegetables as possible, because what you're doing is hydrating your body. You're putting water content back into your body. You're putting fiber in your body, and you're also not requesting as much energy from the food that you're eating. See, most people are eating, the food that they eat takes more energy to process than the food gives them. And I'm gonna get away from this music because it's kind of loud. Oh, that's loud over there too. I'm going to this restroom. So, you know, most people the food that they eat is taking up more calories to process than that is giving them back, than the food is giving them back. And this is why people feel tired, they feel sluggish after they eat, because it's taking more energy for your body. See, you got to realize that 80% of the energy that your body uses is used to digest food. If you are putting food in your body that's difficult to digest, that's going to take more energy to digest than it will give you back. So try to eat as much fruits and vegetables as you can, because that's going to give you high water content, high fiber. It's going to give you enzymes. It's going to give you minerals. It's going to give things to your body that your body uses to maneuver in this reality, in this realm. Plain and simple, you know. It's not something that's difficult to see. You can test this for yourself. Like I said, eat a cooked meal and don't drink any water and see that you'll feel thirsty afterwards. On the contrary, eat some raw fruits and vegetables, a meal of that, make a salad or a fruit salad, or eat a bunch of watermelon and see that you're not going to feel thirsty, because the water required to digest food is already in the raw food. But when you take it out, your body requests it more. That's why you be getting thirsty. But food is supposed to have water in its natural state. Every time you eat, the food is, even meat, look at this, even the meat that carnivores eat has water in it, because they eat it raw. And so they're eating the meat, but with that, in the blood of the animal and the tissue that they eat is water, because we know that most of the blood is made out of water. So even the meat, the carnivores are eating water with their food as well. Everything in nature has water with the food that they eat, because our bodies are made out of water and they constitute water, so it's best to hydrate ourselves with the food that we eat, you know. So I just wanted to make that point. But I want to get back on as far as plants and how plants do affect our body. We can't take that away. We must recognize that plants have an effect on our body, and that every plant does something different. Now, you may not feel it right away. Some stuff you do. If you're very sensitive, like, for instance, when I used to fast, when I was fasting, the first food that I ate when I broke the fast, it was like I was tasting it for the first time, like I was eating for the first time. I could taste every flavor. It almost like ignited and sparked something in my brain, like literally that I could feel, because it was like my body was so receptive to food and energy and information at that point that it just soaked it all up. See, the problem is that we're so overly saturated with food that we can't even distinguish what's good, what's bad. We can't even notice when something's bad for us, because our taste buds are so overly saturated, because we're eating so much so often. When you get to the point where you're desensitized because you reprogrammed your taste buds to know what's good for you, you're gonna be able to taste food and know, like you could taste the food and be like, oh yeah, this is not organic, or this has pesticides. I could taste it, like it don't taste right. You become that sensitive. But because most of our palates, our tongues are programmed to the wrong thing, we don't truly have that luxury to be able to pinpoint and be able to know what's good and bad merely by tasting it. So the way you reprogram your palate is that you stop eating. It only takes about 3 or 4 days to reprogram your taste buds. Actually, after the 3rd day, your immune system completely regenerates and you produce stem cells. Fasting produces stem cells. Stem cells are the cells that your body uses to create other cells. They're basically the foundation of cells. These stem cells could turn into any type of cell. So say your liver is damaged and you fast, your body takes the excess fat from your body and creates stem cells. Now, your body is super smart. It's a supercomputer. It knows exactly what it needs to do. It's going to take the stem cells that it produced from the fat from you fasting, and it's going to take it and use it for the part of the body that needs the most help. So say your liver is damaged, it's going to start using those stem cells to repair the liver. If your kidney's damaged, it's going to use those stem cells turning into kidney cells so that it can repair the damaged areas of your liver. And this is what I was looking into. I got deep into the science of fasting. I got deep into it because I realized that we do come from a sick environment. We have been eating a wrong way for many generations, and many generation after generation, we just been eating the wrong food, to the point is that we need to heal our bodies on a deep level that many can't fully understand or grasp. They just think that if they go vegan, that's going to solve all their issues. But genetically speaking, we must put into our body foods that are genetically unadulterated, foods that are genetically indigenous and native to this planet, not foods that have been manipulated by the hand of man or the consciousness of man. But even all the common foods, here's what I realized looking into food, that all the food has, or most of the food that we have today has been changed. And what we see today is a combination of human consciousness and plant consciousness, meaning that we have interacted with plants and trees to an extent that we have put our consciousness onto plants. So now what do I mean by that? I mean that we selectively, using our conscious awareness, picked certain traits of plants so that we can grow these traits or make these traits more prominent. For instance, if you had a mango and you picked one mango out of a tree and you're like, damn, this mango is really sweet. This mango is more sweet than the other mangoes that I've tasted on this tree. So I'm gonna keep the seed of this tree because I know genetically it's more predisposed to be sweet or produce a sweet fruit. So I plant this fruit into the ground, and what sprouts out of this is a tree that produces a fruit that is more sweet. And then this process keeps going. We pick out the best fruit from that tree and plant that seed. And over time, we start cultivating and shaping and morphing the genetic structure of this mango. Now, this to me means that we put our intention, our consciousness onto a plant. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at that level because we're always putting our intention into our reality. We're always changing things, and this is gradual changes over time that we were able to be side by side, evolving and growing with. But then along comes the 21st century, and you have companies like Monsanto who are now gene editing. They're going into the DNA and they're actually editing genes and mixing. Like, this is different. Cultivating a plant to have certain characteristics is one thing, but actually genetically altering a plant is another thing. So you got to be aware of that. GMO means genetically modified organism. This means that they're going into the plant, they're splicing the plant, and they're putting in genetic information from another organism. It could be bacteria, it could be fungus, it could be another plant. But what they're doing is they're trying to, say they find a plant in the Amazon or algae or a bacteria that fights against a certain protein. Okay, that's defensive against certain protein. So then they'll take this bacteria or this organism, they'll get the DNA of the part of it which is defensive to that certain protein, they'll put it in the other organism, and then they'll develop a spray that they can spray on that plant indefinitely without killing that plant because genetically it's built to withstand that protein. So that's the difference, It's a big difference between using your intention over time to pick and select different genes from a plant than it is to genetically modify or alter the genetics using other organisms' genetic structure. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be very aware and conscious of what you're putting into your body because it's more than just food. It's more than just energy to walk around this reality. It's actually information to your cells. It's actually information to your genes. It's programming you in a certain way. It's allowing you to receive information from the sun, from the universe, that will let you tap into other parts of yourself, unlock certain DNA within you. So don't ever just think food is just information. It's just energy to walk around because everybody eats. Everybody thinks they got to eat for information, but it goes deeper than that. And you have to acknowledge that and look into that because if not, then you basically ignoring a part of your reality that may be able to help you. There's a reason why indigenous cultures cultivated certain herbs. There's a reason why throughout the world, universally, there's been a conscious awareness of plants in the environment and the effect that they have on the human body because this is biology, this is the anatomy, this is biochemistry, this is the breakdown of reality and how it interacts with each other. Everything is consciousness, and every consciousness interacts with another consciousness in a certain way. So the way parsley interacts with this part of my consciousness is a different way than the way basil interacts with this part of my consciousness. It's just different biochemical structures interacting with each other. So you can't take that away, You got to acknowledge that. And furthermore, I know that why we eat so often is because we've been programmed. Why we eat so much and the foods that we eat is because we think that we do. We don't truly know the extent of what this machine is capable of. Everything is energy. The sun is energy. The air is energy. Water is energy. The people are energy. The breath that you take every day is giving you energy. And the food really, it plays to our senses. That's the reason why we gravitate towards it so much, because it stimulates our senses more so than anything else. And we can get a high. Everything is a drug, really. Food is a drug because when you consume it, it alters your physiology. And this is the definition of a drug. So when we consume any food, we're taking a drug and we become addicted to the most stimulating drugs. That's why people are addicted to meat, because meat is the most stimulating food that you could possibly consume. People don't want to fuck with fruits and vegetables because although they do give you energy, they don't stimulate your senses in the way a fucking hamburger or pizza might, you know? So you got to understand biochemistry and biology and the way food interacts with your body to know that you've been conditioned and programmed to think you got to eat a certain way. Like your body is requesting you to eat how you trained it to. You must reprogram your body to eat a way that's conducive to the human body. You got to reprogram your body to eat in a way that where it can thrive, where it can be receiving the water and the nutrients that it needs, you know? So be conscious of that reflection. Know that the best food you could eat as far as physical food that you put into your mouth is food that you interact with, food that you played a part in a role in cultivating, because this consciousness affects how you receive the food. You don't want to eat food that's been brought from far away. You want to eat local, things that are in your environment. Even when I was in Babylon, Southern California, there wasn't much fruit growing, but I would go out and I would try to eat like wild food and harvest my own. And there was a joy in that for me. There was an adventure in that for me, because it made me feel like I was truly connected to my nature. Like, people go to the store and they pick out food, but that to me seems so disconnected, you know, really disconnected from how it truly should be. I think that there's a great pleasure and a great satisfaction in going and harvesting your own food and growing your own food and being fully engulfed and a part of the process of food, as far as from the earth straight to your table into your stomach. It's a whole process that we're so out of tune with, because we can just go through a drive-through and order a hamburger. You know, we're so disconnected. Now, those buildings that we once knew as Burger King, McDonald's, they're just, for me, they just signify, they have no relevancy in my mind, because it's not somewhere where I would go and eat. It's not somewhere where I would go and spend money to put something in my body from, because I know what's in there. I know what's in the food. I know the effects that it has on me. And I know that I don't want nothing to do with that. The more I get conscious and aware, the more I want to connect to the earth. The more I want to connect to my nature, to my human nature. The more I want to be a part of the process of gathering and collecting energy and information to put into my being. And the more I do this, the more I come in contact and become conscious of my natural diet and my natural habitat, my natural environment. Because if I realize that I need water-rich foods, and I realize that fruits and vegetables are the human diet, then I have to acknowledge or think about where that grows the most year-round. And that leads me on a quest, that leads me on a journey, and that takes me to the tropics. That takes me to an environment that's lush and green and filled with vegetation, filled with so many beautiful plants and fruits that I can hardly even name, because there's an infinite amount of plants, and we're stuck consuming the same 3 animals in Babylon, but there's 80,000 plants to choose from. There's so many plants you're not even familiar with. I recommend you to start getting familiar with plants. Look at different herbs, study the different herbs, the different plants in your natural environment. Get familiar with that, because that consciousness is what the earth needs, because the earth needs you to connect back to it. Needs you to get familiar with it, to get in touch with it, be intimate with the earth and have a connection. Because the more intimate you connect with the earth, the more you're going to realize that you are the earth and you require the earth to sustain your life. And you're going to want to honor that. So you're going to want to live better. You're going to want to make improvements in your life. This is another level of consciousness that we must come to. We can't just talk about it and be in a computer and be inside all day. We got to go out there and live it. We got to feel the sun. We got to feel the soil underneath our feet. We got to feel the water, drink the water, swim in the rivers. We got to be human again. We got to feelize the experience that a human was meant to feelize. We got to feel it with our nervous system and embody the characteristics of a true human, not just talk about it all day. We got to live it, reflection. We got to live it. So remember, what you put into your body has an effect on you. Now, your mind is very powerful. It can counteract that for a certain amount of time. But why would you even want to go against yourself in any way, why wouldn't you want to take a holistic approach, think the best thoughts, eat the best food, breathe the best air, be around the best people? Because if you were a supreme being, then you want to do all these things because you realize there is no limits and you can accomplish and have anything that you say you're focused on and your attention on. So don't limit yourself. You can have it all. By your very nature, you deserve it all. It's your birthright to have the complete human experience, not the artificial human experience, but the complete organic, natural human experience. And until you feel it, until you live it and you experience it, you will never truly know what it is to be human. You will never truly reach new levels of consciousness and new levels of awareness. You will never truly come into divine knowledge and all the secrets of the universe until you can be truly human. Okay? So that's the message I wanted to share with you. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you stay positive. I hope you give back. I hope you share information with people. I hope you enlighten, spark, and do positive things in your life. And that's the message of the day. Okay? Hit me up in the inbox if you want to connect and let me know how your day is going. I just want to say I love myself. I love all of y'all. And you're the reason I stay motivated and positive, because without you receiving the information, my purpose is pointless. But because of you, you give me purpose, and I am truly grateful. So, all right, peace.